Well, welcome to this week's wrap of my week in real estate. And our journey takes us into fairly uncharted waters. The uncharted waters, they continue, and I'm not just referring to COVID-19. No, I'm talking about the latest interest rate reduction by the RBA. Can you believe it? Who would ever have thought that the official cash rate would get down to 0.25%? There you go. So comparison website Rate City, well, they reckon that this latest reduction, if you had a 400k mortgage, it'd save you about $56 a month or $675 a year. Now, the good news is that fortunately the rate cut's been passed on by most lenders. So tick, guys, big tick. Well, Sally Tyndall, Rate City Research Director, she said that those people that took out a 400k variable rate mortgage back in October 2011, just before the RBA started the latest rate cutting cycle, if they kept their repayments just exactly the same, would you believe that they would have paid off an extra $61,493 on their home loan? Unbelievable. Now, vacancy rates, very important indicator of what's happening in the economy, I think, particularly with properties. In all capital cities, they are below 3% for the first time in years, and that's also following recent drops in vacancy rates in Sydney and Darwin. In fact, vacancies are tight in most regional centres across the country. The national residential rental vacancy rate, it declined from 2.1% in Jan to 2% down in Feb. Now that's according to the latest research from SQM Research. Most states recorded declines. However, the exception was Hobart, which recorded a slight increase in vacancy rates, but however, it still does remain the top of the pops, a vacancy rate of 0.9%. Sydney actually has the highest capital city vacancy rate at 2.9%. Now, what we are seeing with the decline in vacancy rates reflects an increase in rental demand, a decline in dwelling completions, and the ongoing increase in population. Now, so far, the nation's housing market, it is showing resilience in the face of the coronavirus. Across the capital cities last week, CoreLogic data shows the auction market remained strong with a clearance rate of 71%. That was from 2,220 homes. Now, the result was a sharp increase from the previous weekend. National clearance rate was 53% on 1,456 homes. Now, this was higher through the same weekend back last year in 2019, which had a 51% clearance rate at auction. CoreLogic, however, they do say that with this uncertainty rising and confidence slipping as the coronavirus takes hold, there is some downside risk, quite obviously I would have thought, that housing activity will reduce. But so far the housing market has proven to be relatively resilient. CoreLogic auction commentator Kevin Brogan says that the result shows that the virus outbreak hasn't yet affected the current sellers market. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, first home buyers, well, they have returned to the housing market at the fastest pace in 10 years. Now, that's according to the ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics. The value of new home loans granted to first home buyers, it rose 46% from $2.9 billion in January to $4.2 billion in Jan 2020 this year. Now, some 9,945 first home buyers took out loans in the first month, up 26% from a year ago. Since the election last year in May, loans to first home buyers, they are up 35%, while other owner-occupiers are up 29%. Domain economist Trent Wiltshire, well, he reckons that the rebound has been driven by owner-occupied borrowers and first-time buyers in particular, although investors, they're making a comeback too, which is great news. Now, on the back of that, new home loans led by owner-occupiers rose at their fastest pace in 3 years. According to CommSec's chief economist Craig James, the average loan to buy an established home is up 21.7% in the year to January, which he says is the fastest pace in the 16 years since they've had data available. Now, following this week, I can tell you that new mortgage commitments rose 4.6% to $21 billion from December to January, and it's the fastest month-on-month increase since September 2016, when total new lending rose by 5%. So over the month, the overall value of investor loans increased by 3.6% to $5.7 billion. Now, on a trend basis, investor loans grew 2.1% monthly, and 11.3% annually. Although the investor segment, it's still 40% below its market peak. Now, according to Tim Reardon, chief economist at the HIA, the latest increase in financing for houses has been the most robust monthly growth in the cycle thus far, with housing market conditions obviously significantly improving since their weakest point back in May last year. So to round out this week, I'm going to give the quote of the week to NAB Group chief economist Alan Oster, who said, "Our forecast remains unchanged, with house prices expected to rise 0.5% every month, reaching around 7.5% growth in Sydney and Melbourne." He concluded that if the virus is still around by the end of the year, then this will have an impact. But that's not our forecast. Well, I certainly think it's got a hold of a lot of people's, I guess it's really going to be watch this space. So as I said last week, take care, be careful, be safe, have your social distancing policy in place. Philip Robison of Philip Robison Property saying bye for now, all the best.